Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Today, brought to you by our great friends at Toro. We're excited to have you guys with us today for episode number 94. And today's episode is a special one. We're sitting down with Zach Sack, who is the assistant superintendent at Butler National Golf Club, just outside of Chicago. Zach's journey into turf wasn't a traditional one. It started with a long career in baseball, and it took a life-altering moment to steer him into the industry we all love. He's got passion, perspective, and some incredible stories to share. From hilarious locker room moments to one story that might just send a chill down your spine. So sit back, tune in, and let's dive into this week's episode of Turf Today, powered by Toro. Turf Today is brought to you by Toro. When it comes to spraying, precision makes all the difference. That's why Toro developed their GPS-guided GeoLink system for their Multi-Pro 5800 sprayers. The system knows exactly where you've sprayed and where you haven't, automatically turning nozzles on and off as you go. That means no more wasted chemicals or missed spots. Let that sink in, and imagine what you could save with that kind of precision. Visit Toro.com to learn more and see how Toro is always solving and always evolving.
Morning.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going?
Not too bad, you?
Good, thanks.
Good to be home?
It's great to be home.
Yeah, a bit of a long trip for you?
It was a very long trip for me, but a lot of fun. Got some work done, got some family time, got some beautiful weather out in Arizona. So what can you go wrong?
A little bit of everything.
Yes, sir.
Love
yes,
it.
sir. How you doing? You when's the big game? Was it last night or?
Yeah, Sens lost in Ottawa last night to lose the series. It was close. They tied it up, but what can you do? It's the Leafs.
Yeah.
So it's always
I
next
love
year.
that. I love the note to get out of work and whatever you need to get out of for the
Yeah, can you believe that? Yeah, the mayor wrote like on official letterhead, here's a letter to get out of any unnecessary meeting or anything that doesn't make any sense so that I could cheer on the Sens. That was pretty good.
That's
And
outstanding.
I just got a picture. I just got home from the course. My wife went with my son on their field trip. They went out to a farm today. And she just called me and she's like, you got to check your phone. You got to check the picture I just sent you. And I was like, okay, we're about to jump on. She's like, no, check it. Like, so I checked my phone and it's a picture of Will with Brady Kachuk. I guess
Nah.
he went out there with his family today. So my wife's like, I was like, Blake, like, you asked him? You actually went up to and asked him like the day after. And she's like, yeah, I was kind of scared, but I figured, why not? He's got a little boy. And I guess Brady's wife was like, yeah, no worries. Get all the little boys over here. We'll take some pictures and stuff. And oh, what a beauty.
That's outstanding. That's awesome.
That's a fun one. Yeah. He loves Brady too. That's his guy. So it's, I get to meet your hero at 4 years old. That's fun.
Oh, absolutely. Hopefully that's something he'll remember forever. That's outstanding.
Yeah, that picture's going on the fridge for sure.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. What do we got going today?
So this is a gentleman who I've talked to, I think, a year or two ago. And he had a bit of an interesting story. He'd been moving around a lot and got a job at a really good golf course as an assistant. And he's been working there a little while. So we haven't talked to too many assistants, especially in a while, on this podcast. So it's great to talk to somebody in that role who's got some experience, can definitely help out with some of the younger guys. I've been an assistant myself for almost 10 years now. So it's something I know a lot about, and it'd be great to talk more about that role because it's a very pivotal role in our industry, the assistant role, right? It's kind of make or break. It's either, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go and do something else, or I'm just going to be a lifer here, or I'm going to make that jump and become the superintendent. So it's a very, very pivotal position in what we do.
It's it's a very important position. And, obviously these guys get in there and get a lot of the work done, and it'll be great to hear from him, learn about some of his experiences at Butler National and everywhere else he's been around. So looks like Penn State online. That's always fun.
Yeah, I've been getting asked a lot about schooling lately, about that whole, do I take a certificate program? Do I do a 2 year? Do I dive into 4 year? Do I do it online? Do I go to the school?
Yeah.
It's a big decision. It's a big
Yeah, it is, but
decision.
it's certainly it's an individual choice, I think. The more I'm going through the process now with my son, everyone's kind of built differently and learns
Hmm.
differently. And, I don't think he's the kind that can do it online. He's going to have to be there in person. And I think a lot of people are that way. They need to be there in person and soak it up and be surrounded by other people going through the same thing versus, online. It's typically very individually driven. You may have some Zoom calls and stuff like that, but you're not really getting to know the people, your peers, the ones going through it with you, and it's a lot more difficult to do some group learning and stuff like that. So yeah, everything. I think it's very much an individual decision and what's right for that person. So
Yeah, you think about all the people we've talked to, there's no right or wrong answer. There's no right
no,
avenue. Like it's all
no,
about how you're going to do it, the people you meet, how hard you're going to work and
yep.
taking the opportunities when they come.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you see guys. We talk to guys with 4-year bachelor degrees in turfgrass management. We talk to guys with 4-year business degrees that have certificates, and everything in between. So um, there's several ways that you can get into this business. Again, there's no one way. It's all what fits your specific needs and your strengths and weaknesses and all that fun stuff. So uh, it's lots and lots of ways. I'm rambling right now. I'm going on very little sleep.
Oh
Probably,
no.
probably like you.
Yeah, yeah. I always find like, I work at the golf course all year
Yeah,
and you're getting up early and everything, but the first couple weeks when you're training staff and you got everybody in and the golf course is busy again and there's golfers everywhere, I just find those are the mornings. It's just so tough to get up and get in there. That extra
yeah,
motivation. So, yeah, I've been
yeah.
tired the last few days for sure.
I'll bet. Yeah. So the course is open now.
Yeah, we opened yesterday. Yeah, very
Sweet,
healthy. Just the way that our spring played out here, everything's very green and looking good. So, we're able to kind of, instead of playing catch up and starting to, having to do a lot of stuff, we're able to kind of start on some projects right away and, you know,
sweet.
start getting some stuff going. And we got an awesome crew this year too, which, we talk about on the show all the time. That makes or breaks everything. And we have so many great
Yeah,
guys and a few girls that work on our staff, and it just makes it so much fun throughout the day. So
yeah.
I love my job, man. Like I love being at the golf course and just being there. I even noticed the other day we were playing golf. And I love playing golf. I love the game of golf and the challenge and being an athlete and stuff. But getting to work on the course and just feeling that ownership or that pride of being out there in your work, and I don't know. I love working on the golf course. So it's that greenkeeper in me when I'm out golfing, or it's like I still enjoy doing other things out here too.
Oh, absolutely.
And now it's time for another installment of Ask the Agronomist, presented by the Andersons. From tee to green, goal to goal, and shoots to roots, nothing is off limits.
Welcome back to Ask the Agronomist, featuring PhD agronomist Ben Pease from the Andersons. Today's question comes in from Anonymous. Urea or ammonium sulfate for spring fertilizer apps?
So this is a really timely question. I visited a golf course this morning just as kind of part of my normal duties, and they were out spreading some 13-2-13, which is an ammonium sulfate based fertilizer. Because around here, at least in Iowa and a lot of parts of the country, the rough is waking up, the tees, the fairways, they've mowed them 3 or 4 or 5 times, but the greens are still in sleepy mode. And that's some of the newer cultivars really are great in the summer months with drought stress and heat tolerances and disease management, but they've some of these newer ones have now lost their spring green up. And well, they hold color better into the fall, but sometimes it's tough to wake them up in the spring. So spring fertilizer apps, ammonium sulfate's great because if your soil temps are anything less than 60, yeah, I'm stretching a bit to be on the conservative side, but urea really needs some warmer soil temps because the microbes need to be active. But if we don't have active microbial populations, definitely ammonium sulfate is the way to go. Judging by what the superintendent had planned for me this morning. So ammonium sulfate's great for the springtime, fall time as well. The only caveat is maybe you don't want to throw down very large amounts of nitrogen when you're using ammonium sulfate because most of it's readily available right then. So we don't want to overly feed our turf. They still have a really good root system, but now's the time where they're going to be building a root system, so let's not overly grow them and deplete their carbohydrate reserves. So yeah, ammonium sulfate, great for spring fertilizer applications. And once you do see some growth, then spoon feed with urea, either on a foliar basis, or you can do some light granular applications to help further that along once the ammonium sulfate's kind of been used up.
Beautiful. Great advice. This has been another installment of Ask the Agronomist featuring Dr. Ben Pease from the Andersons.
Hey, Zach.
Zach, what's going on, brother?
Guys? Not much. How we been?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
All good.
We were just
All
chatting
good. You
away
at
here.
you at home knocking this out, or are you at the office, or what?
No, I'm at home. It's some crappy weather out here, so it's been a wet, cold spring. So we're keeping the guys in.
Nice.
So-
There you go. Where are we chatting with you today?
I'm in Highland Park, but just Chicago. Chicago area, suburbs. I live north of the city. Where I work is west of Chicago, so pretty self-explanatory. Chicago.
What's your commute with that Chicago traffic? Obviously, in the morning's probably a little easier.
Yeah, my biggest commute is going 15 minutes west to get to the highway. I live right next to Lake Michigan. And then in the morning, it's like 40 minutes. And then on the way back, it's called 294. So going southbound, that thing is just jam-packed, But headed back up north, again, it's probably 40 minutes. So it's continuously traveling, which isn't bad. It's better than just stop and go, stop and go. I used to live in the city, and it's only 15 miles from my course, but it would take me an hour, 45 minutes sometimes. And
Wow.
it's
So
brutal.
White Sox or Cubs?
Oh, Cubs all the way.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
Wrigley
Cubs
Field.
all the way. Yep. I mean, Wrigley Field's a gym. Used to have season tickets, used to go to a lot more games, but working in the golf industry, half the games are at 120, can't make them.
Oh,
So-
that's true. That's tough. Remember
Yeah.
Rookie of the Year, that movie growing up where the pitcher was for the Cubs? That was
Yeah.
sick. I used to
Yeah.
love that movie.
I think that's the same actor that's in American Pie, I think.
Yep.
Oh, really?
You're right.
Yeah,
Yep.
I believe
Yep.
so.
Same dude.
I believe so. It's like when he was a
that's
kid.
hilarious.
Yeah,
So
a lot of baseball movies.
with that commute, then, Zach, do you find that as beneficial for you to be able to decompress after a long day at the golf course? Is that 40 minutes, before, maybe thinking about what you have ahead, and then that 40 minutes home, is that valuable time for you as you're going in and leaving the course?
Definitely. The commutes are different in terms of what I do. In the morning, I listen to a podcast or I listen to music, just kind of get myself awake. And then definitely on the ride home, I more than not sit in silence. Just listen to the engine, let the thoughts go, what we got accomplished today, what can we do tomorrow? How can it be better? We're a big operation, so things are, even if you have your daily plan, it's never your daily plan. I mean, things are being changed constantly, whether it's weather, the amount of play we have, or my boss just flipping the script on us and saying, this is what we're doing. So yeah, on the way home, it's definitely decompressing for sure.
A lot of red ink on the plan for the day, huh?
Oh man, we're doing which a lot of courses are. We're doing the task tracker, the advanced scoreboard, which is great. But you still got your notebook on the side. Reconfigure things. You got your red ink, your X marks, your check marks. You got 3 Diegos and 4 Juans. You got to figure out which one's which and where they're going. So.
So before we get too deep in this, Zach, why don't you go ahead and give us a little introduction of yourself?
Yeah, my name is Zach Sack. My dad had a sense of humor, obviously.
That's excellent.
But it's better than Harry or Paul, I guess. So Zach Sack, I'm originally from Arkansas, a little town called Dumas, Arkansas, southeast of the state. It's where my extended family is. They farm a 6,000-acre crop farm down there. Used to work there in the summers. And then when I was really young, my dad moved us up to Chicago. I've been here pretty much my entire life. It's where I was raised. Went to school here, went to college in Illinois. And then after college, during college, worked at a golf course, Winnetka Golf Club for during the summer for 4 years, just as a labor guy to stay busy, make some cash. Really enjoyed it. After that, owned baseball academies for about 4 or 5 years, and then sold those and was just kind of looking into my next steps. Decided that I'd, you know, do part time at my local golf club just to get free golf. And then, a few weeks later, my boss at the time was asking if I was interested in the industry. I was trying to figure out my next move, said I'll give it a shot. And 8, 9 years later, I'm still in it, chugging away. So, and now I'm currently at Butler National Golf Club right outside Chicago.
Sweet. Well, before you came on, we were talking a little bit about school, and you took the 2-year program at Penn State. Talk to us a little bit about that, and why you decided to do it online.
Yeah, Penn State online was great. I mean, it's up to you to get your classes done. You set your timeline. Teachers are extremely responsive. If I could do it all over again, and getting out of high school, if I knew I was going to be a superintendent one day, I definitely would have gone to the 4 year in person, just because you're exposed to a lot more. It was good. It was fun. Some people might not want the college route, in this industry or just life in general. And you don't necessarily have to go to the 2 year. You can get, the 8 or 12 week certificate, which is just as good. I mean, I've seen guys move on to some really big name courses down in Florida just with that 8 or 12 week certificate. Um, you learn a lot, but I think we all know you learn a lot more on the golf course. Um, I mean, this is an industry where experience matters. Um, and you see that a lot these days with kids moving really quick in this industry. Year as an AIT, 2 years as an assistant, then they're a superintendent, and all the more to them. But experience matters a lot, but school is also important, especially with landing some of these jobs.
Another baseball guy here, Adam. I feel like we're running into, former professional baseball players, collegiate baseball players. They're everywhere. Is
Mhm.
there something there in the water? Is it the teamwork aspect that you just love being around that kind of made this an easy transition for you then?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's an outdoor sport, right? And golf is an outdoor job. So, they kind of go hand in hand to some aspects. But you like bringing a crew together and seeing a plan go out. And, I had 45 coaches underneath me and add another 20 instructors, and getting out of the industry and then getting into the golf industry. It's similar to running a crew. And that's what I like. I like managing personalities and seeing a crew come together and get everything done. Plus, like I said, being outside is the biggest thing, I think.
So, what was the transition to Butler National like, getting into that role?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was at a municipal course for 6 years as the assistant. It was called Glenview Park Golf Club in Glenview, Illinois. And I was very fortunate enough that my superintendent that had just started there spent 15 years in the private industry. So he carried a lot of that mentality over to the public world. Um, but it's different. I went from 45,000 to 50,000 rounds a year to 10 to 11,000 rounds. We don't see a whole lot of play, and I would say 80% of our play are walkers, so we don't have to deal with the car traffic. Um, in the end, we're all cutting grass, right? We've got similar practices, but just the day to day is a lot different. The pressure's there, but I don't feel the pressure from golfers necessarily. We're not mowing a fairway, two stripes, pulling off to the side, let the group play through, two stripes, pulling off to the side. You have a group come by, get out of their way, and then you can pretty much mow the entire fairway again. But it can be stressful. I mean, we got 25 guys on crew plus 3 assistants, a mechanic, an assistant mechanic, an AIT, an intern, and then my boss. So it's a lot going on at all times.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on expectations. I think, I grew up at a top 100, very fortunate to be at a very nice club growing up, and we'll also spend some time working at a public golf course. And my personal thoughts were that the expectations really didn't change a whole lot. You know, your public fee player, in my experience, expected just as much as the guy going out at that private course. What do you think? What are you seeing as far as similarities and differences as far as expectations at those types of facilities?
I think expectations, like you said, they kind of stay the same. I would say the difference for me between the two is these members are signing my check. In the public world, you're just out here playing golf. Like, I'm sorry that, we have 3.5 inch rough. It's rained the last 2 days. Go enjoy your round. You know, the expectations are always the expectations. You want to deliver the best, playing surface as possible. Um, at Butler, our members are very involved. They care about the course, the reputation of the course. So if, we're rolling 11 and a half, that's a slow day for the members, and we'll hear about it. If like we do the drill and fill, I'm pretty sure you guys are probably familiar with that. We've been having to come in every year, early October. Well, we still have holes in the greens. Members know what's going on. They know the benefits of it, why we're doing it, but gives them a bumpy putting surface. So we'll hear about it. And then you get your complaints. Why are greens slower nowadays? Well, we've been open 3 weeks. I think we've had 100 players out. Plant health kind of takes priority at that time. We're not going to roll just to roll for X amount of members. So Memorial Day, things start to pick up for us, and then more complaints come in. But the public world's just a different beast. I mean, you are fighting players left and right, not only pace of play, but, hey, your guy was out there watering the green and, he only stepped, 2 paces off the green. I'm sorry, I'm sorry that the $80 you paid are now ruined. I'm just glad to be out of the public world personally. There were some times there where guys were pushing the button a little too much.
You talked about the players that come out early and some of the things that they see and your priorities, and how the golf course may not be perfect for when those early rounds are coming up. How do you communicate with your members, and how do you set those expectations?
There's not anything in particular that we use. We try to keep a pretty open communication between us and the golf shop. The golf shop usually has most of the communication with the members about what's going out in the course and whatnot. I think our members, they just trust us enough, to supply great conditions at all times, that there's really not that, hey, what's going on? Did you aerify tees or greens? We'll let the pro shop know, and then the pro shop will let the members know. But there's not a Twitter account or anything like that. It's pretty old school. It's just straight golf. And yeah, I would say Butler is not antiquated, but it's got that old school mentality to it. So
You guys have hosted a few Corn Ferry Tour events, it looks like. How do you guys kind of prepare for an event like that where you're going to have thousands of people showing up at the golf course?
The Corn Ferry that I worked actually was at a different course. I apologize.
Oh, okay. That's my bad too.
And no. That was at the Glen up in Glenview. It's another Fazio design course. It's a semi-private. I've done that there. We do have the Corn Ferry players come and play our course, a couple of days before they do that tournament. And, we prep it as best as possible. But we held the Western Open, I want to say 20, 25 years up until 1990. And then after that, they left us, and we haven't really held anything since then.
I was gonna say, you guys are fairly exclusive up there, man. I can't talk today. I'm struggling. I apologize, Zach. Didn't bring my A game today.
A little jet lag from the trip, eh?
Oh my gosh, yeah, you have no idea. Give me some history of the golf course, because I don't think too many people know about Butler National.
Yeah, Butler's known well within the Midwest, especially Illinois. We are very exclusive. So I'll be a little cautious on what I say and don't say.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it tight.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised when I saw you, willing to come on here and talk about the course. I'm like, man, this is
great.
Yeah. Things are changing.
To be honest, Now that I think about it, I probably should have asked if there's like a no media clause or something, but
Uh-oh.
Well, you're not showing the golf course, so you're safe.
right,
No, no,
right. You know,
exactly.
yeah,
It's all positives.
there's not much on Butler. You know, even when I was interviewing, you know, trying to do all this research on Mike Saul's my boss and Butler, it's very limited. So it's a Fazio course. It was built in 1972. We're right underneath 7,600 yards. I believe we're 70 par 71 or 70, and then
Jeez.
our slopes 155.
Oh.
So yeah, we've
It's exciting.
got 10 forced carries. Um, Rough is long, fairways are small, greens, you know, don't have a whole lot of undulation to them, but the subtleties in them are extremely difficult. Um, you know, I'd love to come up here and say it's the most beautiful course in the world. You know, it's not like going out to Colorado and playing a mountain course or playing something in Hawaii. You know, it's your normal Parkland style course, but it'll beat you up. I don't care how good you are. I mean, we have this thing called a Butler Cup, brings a bunch of other clubs to come by and play. And I was up the putting green at the end of it, and there's this dude walking by with his buddies, and he's like, "Man, this is the hardest, easiest looking fucking course I've ever played." You know, because it's all right. It's all right in front of you. There's no tricks or gimmicks, but it's tree lined. It's thick rough, dense rough, tall rough. And it's a beast. You know, I consider myself a fairly good golfer, and I'm happy if I shoot in the low 80s out there. You know, getting close to par is impossible for someone like me.
I was gonna say 7,600 yards, par 70 or 71. Like, write me down sign my card for a 90, and let's go to the bar, man.
Yeah,
I mean, let's
exactly.
just go.
Oh, man,
We'll just play a
you know,
scramble.
yeah. And it's, you know, yeah, it's a beast. So you know, it was designed for tournament play. I mean, we've got all the room in the world for grandstands and whatnot. And so I think it was Phil Mickelson who came out and played like a decade ago or something like that. And he came out and he was like, yeah, he's like, Butler could hold a major in a week if you gave him enough notice. So, but because of the being so exclusive, you know, like when I was at the Green Start Academy, you're hearing Shinnecock, you know, Pine Valley, all these names. And then, you know, they're like, where are you from? I'm like, oh, Butler National Golf Club. They're like, oh, where's that? And, you know, in my head, you know, you got to, okay, I get it. You know, we're not on the grand stage, blah, blah. But back of my mind, I'm kind of like, well, you know, kind of somewhat of a big deal in Chicagoland. You know, I mean, held the Western Open for 25 years. But yeah, not many people know about it.
We'll go back to Butler for sure because I know we got some good questions about that course and everything there. But we got to ask you about the Corn Ferry because you got to work the course, or you got to work the tournament a few different years. What was that like? What's the differences in that game, and what is it? My follow-up question to that would be like, what does it compare to more, the public course or the exclusive private course? Working those tournaments.
Yeah, working the Corn Ferry was great. So I worked for Glenview Park Golf Club, and then we had the Glen Club, which was down the road. Across from the Glen was our 9-hole course that we also had. So there was a weird marriage where the Park District paid for like 25% of the Glen's maintenance building, and then they took care of our 9-hole. So in return, me and my boss would go over and help every morning with the Corn Ferry. And you know, it's not a huge tournament, it's not a major or anything like that, but it's different. You know, I mean, it is definitely different. It is everybody shows up, you got your jobs, you know, you've got your route, and if you deviate from that, luckily there's always someone out there, you know, to kind of from the Glenn's maintenance crew to kind of show you where to go. My first year was a little different. They started cutting fairways on 18 and they were just two-toning them, and a hydraulic leak just right
Oh
down
no.
first center cut all the way from the
Damn.
beginning of the fairway all the way to the green. And it's not like Augusta where they had us out there with a sod machine putting new grass down. It was, this sucks, but I mean, they're teeing off soon and we don't have the labor to do that. I mean, 15 volunteers, 20 volunteers plus his crew. So it's not the grand scale of things, but it was all roped off. It looked like a professional tournament. It was cool. You know, how we kind of run our day to day is very similar to how they ran their tournament day to day. Everybody's got their routes. It's very organized. You know, there's tons of communication. Um, yeah. So, yeah,
It's
I would
crazy,
say,
but it's professional.
yeah, it's crazy, but it's professional. And like I said, that's a semi-private course, but it's also like $300 to play. So I don't see a whole lot of public play up there.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Matt from Standard Off, and for over a century, Standard Off has set the benchmark in golf course accessories. As inventors and innovators, we design, manufacture, and assemble top quality products proudly made here in the USA to enhance every aspect of your golf course. From tee box essentials like ball washers and tee markers to greens equipment, including cups and flagsticks, and even those custom flags that showcase your course's unique identity. We provide the tools that superintendents trust to elevate the game. Standard Golf, where innovation meets the green.
I'm curious about, we talked a little bit about your journey into this career, and you kind of went back maybe a little later in life as kind of a second act for you. Do you think having that additional maturity, other experiences, life experiences, work experience, do you think that's beneficial for you? Do you think that's helped you be a better superintendent, assistant superintendent, and leader there in the maintenance facility?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, don't get me wrong, what you do on the golf course matters, but a lot of what we do is managing personalities and people. And, your life experience, is a part of that. Like when I got in this industry, I was very lost. I lost my little brother, him and three of his buddies. They died in a tragic boating accident up in Wisconsin. And January of 2016, and he was a big part of coaching with me. We grew up playing baseball together. So I stuck with baseball for another year and a half, and then completely got out and was just was looking for happiness elsewhere. The one thing that you're so involved in and delved into, and it brings you this joy, and you have this commitment towards it, and then some event happens you have no control over and just takes everything and rips it away from you. And that's what happened to me. And I didn't work for a few months. I was just kind of trying to figure out my next steps. And losing my brother at the age of 24, 23, 24, 25, somewhere around there, it matured me quick. And one of the biggest points would be that life is just so short, and not getting upset at the things that you can't control, something with extenuating circumstances. And I learned that through my brother's death, and I bring that to my crew, because it's very easy to get upset. Things don't go your way. You got rain, you can't, put the drop seeder on your tees to get them going. And I always, am really good at, okay, there's always tomorrow. Sure, it might push us back a week, but everybody relax. Tomorrow will be here. It'll be a better day, or at least we'll try to make it a better day. And I wouldn't have had that mindset so well stuck inside of me if my brother hadn't passed and matured me that way, for sure.
It's heavy, dude.
Yeah, hey, right. I try to keep a positive light as best as possible. We've all done dumb stuff in our lives, and probably we're closer to death than we ever will realize, right? I mean, I remember bombing a hill on a longboard going like 40 miles per hour with my buddy in his truck following me behind to see how fast I was going. Like, had I fallen off that, like, God knows what had happened. Some people aren't as lucky, and that's just kind of what happened with my brother and his friends. And it gives you a different perspective on life and what's important and what's not. And what's important to me is my family and my friends, taking care of them, and taking care of a golf course and its members. And to some that might seem like a simple life, but typically those that have had a hectic upbringing and start to life will typically want a boring kind of, it is what it is, none of this, just kind of straight across. And that's kind of where I'm at. So
You touched upon it a little bit. I'd love to hear you kind of expand on it, though. Like, having that perspective, how does that change everything from a work, even in just your general everyday life? I mean, how does something like that impact you and change your mindset?
yeah, it changes everything. You got two roads you can go down depending on where your life's at. You can learn from this, or you can just kind of push it aside, never deal with it, and continue on with life. Um, Not to say that I was a bad person. I've always held myself at good moral standards, but it shined light on areas that I needed to work on. I realized that I was really selfish with my time. Like with friends or girlfriends or family. Like if I didn't want to do something, well, my view was it's my time. I can do whatever I want with my time. Um, and other aspects of life, and everything just kind of changed. And you bring that to the crew, because we can have these horse blinders on, right, where we're just so focused on what needs to get done. And when that doesn't happen, you can freak out a little bit. The pressure's there. And again, I always kind of go back to there's always tomorrow. Like the hardest thing to do in this industry is to do nothing at all. I'm sure we've all heard that a billion times. Like, oh, it's gonna rain tomorrow. Well, we could probably push this. And I feel like me and my boss Mike are really good at knowing when to push the envelope and when not to, because of that mindset of, well, there always is tomorrow. And then you just want to be a good person. Like I said, life's short. You want to be a good person. You want to help your crew out. You want to help them succeed as best as possible. And what I've started to realize is, these guys want more responsibility. The more responsibility to give them, the more in tune they are, the better they are. And all of a sudden you got this well-oiled machine, and you've got people that are in management roles that are see the big picture, but also understand that shit happens. Equipment breaks, hydraulic lines leak, shit doesn't get done, miscommunications out there. I mean, it's chaos at all times, and you just got to keep a cool head and compartmentalize and keep a really level attitude to everything.
Yeah, I tell my guys all the time, stuff's gonna break. Like stuff is gonna happen. We just got to limit the mistakes and prepare for the worst. But that's you have certainly a lot of stuff going on there. And when you left the baseball industry, obviously that's a big change. And we've met a lot of people that have made changes in their lives like that to move to the golf industry. Was there anything specific about that change, or was there any moment where you realized like, hey, this is what I want to do kind of the rest of my life?
Yeah. Again, like I said, I was just kind of looking for a job to stay busy at the time and not spend a bunch of money on golf. My boss at the time, Todd Vermillion, shout out Todd, does a great job. He was looking for an assistant, and he had guys lined up, but you know, everyone wants to work at a top 100 club or a place that does a tournament, where you can make a name for yourself and make the contacts. It's really hard in the public world to get assistance, unless you got someone really close by that's interested, or someone in your crew that can kind of work their way up. And the two or three guys that he had kind of eyeing out, I think kind of, okay, I got to the course I finally wanted, and, pushed everything aside. So he approached me. He was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "I'll give it a shot." I mean, my family's farmers. I worked on the farm in the summer. Like I like working outside, and did that for the rest of the season. And then the next season, I remember it so vividly. It was probably middle of May, late May. It was like 70 degrees out, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving my cart, got my sunglasses on. I've got a podcast that I'm listening to, got my coffee, sun's coming up. And it was just one of those things like, I'm at peace. Like I want to make a career out of this, like I love it. I mean, I love being outdoors. I love seeing everything come together. I've got a little bit of artist to me in a sense, and whether that's changing up the way we're mowing, doing a 50-50 or two-tone, and then reversing the outer cut, to make the colors pop. And yeah, I was just riding in my Toro cart and was like, this is it. I can see why my uncle and grandparents continue to farm. Like, yeah, it sucks some days, but it's such a rewarding industry. And to have a member come up to you and whether you know them or not, and just be like, "Hey, you guys are killing it right now. Like, really appreciate it." Because you boil it down, we're in the service industry. I mean,
Mhm.
we're superintendents, but we're taking care of people's playgrounds essentially, and it's a service industry. We're serving them with the best possible playing services we can, and we've got to remember that. And yeah, so that was it. And it was like one of those come to Jesus moments, like the sun was coming through like the clouds and shining down as if Jesus was like going to come down and be like, "This is it, man." So yeah, it was wild. Because I never thought you could have told me when I was in high school, "Hey, you're going to be a golf course superintendent." I would have looked at you and not even said anything to you, just walked off.
So what are some of the things that that Todd and now Michael, what are some of the things that those guys have done to help prepare you for current and future success?
Yeah, so I'll start with Todd. Couldn't have asked for a better boss to enter the industry with. Um, just really good guy, really kind, stern, but was willing to help. And my 6 years there were outstanding. But that was a lot of the how and the what, and after 6 years of the how and the what, I knew I wanted to get into the private world, and I was ready to be a superintendent in the public world, but I wanted to jump private. And like I said, Todd did a great job, but you're so busy that you don't have the luxury of sitting aside on the fairway for 10 minutes and being like, "Oh yeah, there's some anthracnose or pythium or dollar spot, and this is how, and this is what we're spraying, and this is the why," just because there's so much play. So I switched over to Butler, interviewed with Mike. He gave me an opportunity, and Mike is just extremely intelligent all the way through, separate from agronomy. I mean, he's just a very smart individual, and he's just an outstanding teacher. You have questions for him, and he's got the answer for you for most part. And if he doesn't, he'll look it up and do some research, and he'll get back to you. I mean, this is a guy that just loves grass, just everything about it, the science behind it. And so being at Butler has opened the doors for the why for me now over the last 3 seasons. Why we do this, why we don't do that. And there's plenty of why we do's and why we don'ts at Butler. I mean, like I said, we got a big crew, 25 of normal crew guys, and we are constantly just chugging away. And trust me, I have learned a lot on what not to do. I will tell you that. I mean, I've done some things, and Mike's been like, "That's the public mentality." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He's like, you're learning, but yeah, like I said, it's like being in school on a golf course with him. It's really great. I mean, like I said, he understands grass and talks to it, and he keeps to himself. He's not looking to be one of these big household names. Although Green Start, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I work at Butler," and Phil Kafari, who's been on the show, he's like, "Oh, legend! What a legend! Just the titan of the industry." And and Zemmers was there as well, and kind of saying the same thing. And so that was really comforting. And yeah, man, like I said, it's just kind of being in school on a golf course. I never hesitate to ask questions, and anyone who's coming through this industry, you need to ask questions. I mean, there is no room not to ask questions, because you make one mistake as a superintendent, that could potentially be your run at a superintendent, depending on where you're at. So learn as much as you can. Hopefully you get in with a superintendent that is willing to teach you, not just say, "Hey, go do this." This is why we're doing this. You need to learn. And so, yeah, it's been great. It's really propelled my career and gotten me to a point where, in the next year or two, I'll start to look for superintendent jobs. So
I can totally see Phil. I can totally picture him in that conversation and exactly what he said. That's hilarious. Quick follow up. Just, you mentioned some of the mistakes, potentially getting called out on some of those by Mike. How important is it to make mistakes and to fail from time to time?
I think it's extremely important, right? I'm just me personally. You can tell me what to do and I'll learn from that, but if I make a mistake, I'm definitely learning from that. I will never do that again. And, for forward references, hey, I already made a big mistake. Like, I need to think things through, because your first solution might not be as good as your fourth solution. So you need to work things through, and I don't know. You still want to be confident though, right? It's kind of that, you know, do first and ask for forgiveness or whatever the saying is, so you just got to go out there and make decisions on what you think is best for the day. And if you mess up, you mess up. You got to remember you're an assistant. You're still learning, right? And even the guys at the top 100 courses, Cypress to Pine Valley to Monterey, all the way down to Florida, they still make mistakes. We all do, like whether that be you get a sheet from your superintendent and it's like, okay, well, I've got my rate, but my quantity doesn't match up. Simple things like that. Perfection isn't attainable, but I do believe that making mistakes is very good for your development as an assistant, and the realization that you can limit your mistakes, but they're always going to happen. For example, so I was on a box 18 green, which is near the clubhouse, working on the satellite, fixing a pump board or distribution board or something like that. We had our intern. He was showing up to interview our potential intern, and I hear this, "Hey, how you doing?" And it's like the third week in May. It's like 38 degrees out. This dude, he's got like 6-inch seam shorts on.
Oh yeah.
And, oh yeah.
Is he
And
Australian?
Ready to show.
no. He's from,
Okay.
I don't see any names. He's from the East Coast. And
Okay.
this white polo that was like super tight. He's well built. His nipples were just sticking out rock hard. And I'm like, can I help you? He's like, oh yeah, I'm here to interview for Mike, for the intern position. I'm like, oh, okay, yada. Fast forward, we get him on the sprayer, and we do a lot of spraying. We don't really mix, it's usually one chemical at most, rarely two chemicals. So we got 3 sprayers, they're going out constantly. Well, our intern, he had a somewhat complex spray. It was like we're mixing like 4 things with a PGR. And I give them a sheet. I highlight everything, what you're doing, your rate, your amount, the machine you're doing, direction, whatever, PSI, mile per hour. Very detailed, very hard to mess up. And I always tell him, check your sheet 3 times. So he goes and he mixes up. And I go, I'm checking greens and speeds. I come back, I'm driving past the chemical building, and I just kind of look to my right and I look in there, slam on the brakes. Like, I did not just see what I thought I saw. And walk in there. I'm like, you did not put all these jugs in there, did you? He's like, yeah. Why? He put 6 jugs of Paclo in a sprayer.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Completely mixed up. He saw the Paclo and then he saw the amount for whatever else we were spraying, completely mixed it up. So I called Mike on the radio. Hey, Mike, this is what happened. I'm standing out in front of our shop and I just hear the wheels coming around the corner.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, just Robin's racing, just burning them out. I don't think he'll listen to this, so I shouldn't get in trouble. But slams on the brakes, takes his hat off, throws it on the ground, and just reams me a new one. You need to be on top of these guys, yada, yada, yada. And, I take that criticism really well. He's no scarier than my mom or dad, to be honest. Like we're grown men. You can yell at me. We'll get over it. But my point is I learned very quickly, always, you don't need to micromanage, but you always got to check in on your guys. Some guys have minds of their own, where they'll do, oh, I'll just do this. Well, no, we didn't do that because we have a reason as to why we haven't done that yet. And that was a big one for me, that there's no room for being mindless, at an operation, at any golf course, but especially a big operation where you got a bunch of guys, you got to be on top of it. And that was a huge learning moment for me, because I came from a place where we had 10, 11, 12 guys that just knew what to do. They'd been there for 25 years. You didn't have to, okay, you're doing this, go. When you're done, I trust you, you come back in here. It's different. You got to, you guys good? Okay, what's your next plan? What's your thought process? And you just got to do it in a way that doesn't seem like it's micromanaging, because no one likes to be micromanaged, right? I mean, that can get annoying.
Yeah, so being in your role, how do you kind of balance, being part of the crew and being, friendly with those guys, but then also being their boss? How do you sort of balance all that? Because that's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I think it's tougher for someone who comes up as an AIT or an intern to an AIT to a second to a first, because you got incorporated, when you're 20 years old, dicking around with the crew, having fun, So you come up with a crew. I feel like it could be difficult when you get to that first position, first assistant position, to tell guys what to do, because it wasn't too long ago where you were more or less one of them just hanging out and dicking around. For someone like me who came in, as a new assistant, I've always kind of had the same philosophy, you know, don't mistake my friendliness for friendship. At the end of the day, I am your boss, but I will be friendly. We will joke around. We'll have a great time. But there is that line, between friendliness and friendship. And then another thing that I rely on for me personally is, you know, I tell my guys when they start acting up a little bit, please don't take my self-control for weakness, like being able to stay evenly calmed during a situation, can be misconstrued as a weakness at times to a crew, I feel like. And as long as you're just friendly and stern, I think you won't have a problem. But I got really lucky. I mean, our main 15 dudes have been there for 20 years and they're really good. I mean, our project crew, we have two brothers that have been there for 30 years and they know how to rebuild everything and do everything. So, but it can be difficult. I mean, because you want to be friends with these guys to some aspect, right? But there's always that fine line.
Did that intern get the note on the shorts and the tight
Yeah.
polos?
I'm not. That was a tough summer. That was a really tough summer.
He's scratching his head for anybody that's not watching the video.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he listened. He's got a great, he was on the sports field side. What he knew he wanted to do. But I guess going to the 4-year Penn State, they really encourage you to kind of do an intern at every step. So that's why he was there. He stopped wearing shorts. I gave him a large shirt because he's muscular. And when he came back, he's like, I need a medium. I'm like, okay, I gave him medium. He wanted the medium because it was very tight on his body.
Yeah, the schmediums.
He was out there. I mean, don't get me wrong, great kid, nice kid, funny, but just you could tell that he didn't want to really be in the golf world. He was looking for the sports fields. And they're different, right? I mean, I could be wrong, but the sports fields, they don't really care about the grass, especially like a baseball field. They just care about home plate and pitcher's
mound. It's like 10% of what they do. Everything else is the dirt.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's all they really care about. So, but like I said, that was like one of many problems we had. He triple sprayed. So we've got, it's called the Island. It's 1, 10, and 18. And we were spraying PGR. He sprayed one and then went in order and came back and he was spraying one again. I'm like rolling down. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, what do you mean? Like kind of caught an attitude with me. He's like, what do you mean? What am I doing? I go, you're on the fucking first hole. He's like, oh, like I tap open kind of thing. Like, oh, sorry, dude. It's like, dude, how hard is it just to pay attention? Like you're on a sprayer. Like,
big deal.
Yeah. But, our last intern last year, he's now an AIT, which is great. That's the idea. Intern, come back as an AIT, second, first. I think I was probably maybe the first, maybe the second time Mike had in his 40-year career had gone out looking for an assistant. It's always been kind of coming up, riding that wave there. But it's tough getting interns nowadays. I mean, especially if you're not a household course name. I mean, it is just really tough.
Sticking with the sprayer talk, any good memories of yourself spraying, potentially early in the morning?
Yeah, dude. So this is a true story, by the way.
Excellent.
So as far as I know, it's true. There's still times where I'm like, did that really happen? Or did I just imagine that? So being in the public world, our spray applications were at odd times. Like, you'd come in 8 o'clock at night, spray out 2 tanks for fairways, back at 3 o'clock in the morning, spraying out the next two. So I was spraying tees one morning. I was on the 15th hole, which is in the corner of our property. And you've got to go up front and back your sprayer up just to spray. And it's like 4:15, 4:30, pitch blackout. And I get in front and I like look behind me to like see where I'm at. And out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw a figure standing, like lurking, like on the edge of the bushes. So I like whipped my head back around, didn't see anything. I'm like, what the heck? All right. Get back up there, spray my pass. Can't remember what we were spraying so long ago, but I do remember we had dye in the tank. Spray my pass, get lined up. I'm backing up. I get towards the back. We have a row of privets, making sure I don't back into those privets. And I see this white figure again in the corner of my eye. I whip my head around. There's this dude. It's like 50 years old. He's in a Hawaiian shirt. He's got these white shorts on. He's got sandals on and has got his arm in a sling. And he's got this bouquet of wildflowers. And he just walks up to me and just hands me these flowers, smiles at me, and turns around, walks to the privets, and then just stands there. And I'm like looking at this guy, like half tempted to be like, you need to get out of here. Like, what are you doing? Didn't want to mess with him. Have no idea what's going on here. So I finished spraying the tee. I'm backing up, and he's just standing there. I noticed he's got dye all over. I mean, I guess he was standing right next to the boom. His white shorts have all these blue specks. His legs are covered in dye. His feet are covered in dye. So I finished spraying. I go back to the shop, have these flowers in my hand. Todd's like, what are those? I'm like, you will not believe what just happened. He didn't believe me. So then I go back. It's probably 5:30, and I'm like kind of just looking out, and there's nothing there. 2 weeks go by, and I'm still mulling over this. Then I'm leaving work one day, and this dude is standing. He's got his white shorts on with the blue stains and his sandals, no shirt, with his sling, just standing at the corner of a stoplight. And I saw him do that for like 2 weeks longer and never saw the guy again. It was the weirdest, most insane thing because like where I was, it's like woods. There's nothing out there. Like, I don't know where this dude came from. Like, I don't know if there's a psych ward nearby or something or what, but it was just really, really weird. And it freaked me out. And then fast forward to our next year, I get a call and I come up to the pro shop. Someone wants to talk to me. And it's this dude. It's like a year later. He's still got his arm in this sling. And he walks up to me, goes, how are my flowers doing? I was like, what? He's like, yeah, my flowers that I gave you, how are they? I'm like, oh yeah, they're doing great, man. They're really flourishing. They're really going. He's like, great. He's like, I hope you know that those were given with love. And I was like, okay, thanks, dude. Yeah. I don't know.
My
gosh. But it scared me. I mean, you're out in the middle of the dark on a sprayer. I mean, granted, our sprayer is lit up like you could see it from space. But yeah, that was a really, really weird one for me, man. I just never imagined that I'd envision something like that.
It would have been great if he came up and said he was interviewing with Todd for an intern position, right?
Right?
I'm here for the interview.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
The flowers is creepy though. Guy just walked right up to the sprayer, and here you go.
Yeah, it was super. It was just like it's like one of those like, am I being punked?
Yeah,
like,
there's a camera on me for sure.
Right? So yeah, that was wild. And then I had a couple wild spray stories. I accidentally went over some dude's white leather bag that I didn't see that was laying out in the middle of the fairway. I don't know how I saw it. Had dye in the tank, like just completely sprayed his white bag. It was not good.
I was going to say, how'd that go over?
Oh, it was not good. And I remember it perfectly. He was like, I used to be a member at North Shore. And I remember looking at him, I go, well, I'm assuming there's a reason why you're not a member there anymore. I got real chippy in the public world. It gets to you at some point. We closed down for COVID. No tee markers, no nothing. It's just me and Todd were out there mowing. got this dude on the first tee, part of our men's club. He's just taking practice swings, divot after divot. He's going to play, roll up to him like, sorry, sir, we're closed. Without looking at him, he goes, oh, I'm part of the men's club. And we went through this dance where I'd say something. He said, I'm part of the men's club like 4 or 5 times. And finally, I was like, you need to leave. He looked up at me. He goes, I'm part of the fucking men's club. And I snapped. And I go, and I'm part of the Mickey Mouse Club, but you don't hear me fucking talking about it. Like, you need to get off of here. And like, that was like my last thing where I was like, okay, I need to get in the public world. Like these golfers are just killing me nonstop, you know, and the public world's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, or the private world's great. You've got your complaints, but they're way less, you know, and 9 times out of 10, it's about something important. Like, hey, you might want to go look at the pin location on 15. Like that's dicey. Like I 5-putted on that hole or something like that, you know, or something simple. There's trash all over the pond. You know, it's not the, well, why are the greens, you know, why are the greens so small? It's like, I don't know, dude. We're a public course. It was built 100 years ago. Like we don't, we're not going to start building greens in house, you know, at a public course. It is what it is, you know, or well, I don't understand why we're on Frosted Lake. Can't you guys just get a turbine out on greens? It's like, what? You just blow the frost off the greens? Like, yeah, you know, get some guys with backpack blowers and just blow the frost off. You know, and our members understand, like they're a little more in tune to the agronomy side. You know, they're paying money to be at this course, so they do a little bit research on their own, or they've been a part of a greens committee and board meeting and kind of understand how things run. In the private world, it's, I'm here. You know, what do you mean I can't play right now? Like, I'm here, I paid for it. So big difference.
So was it a cognizant effort on your part to tone it down? Because like you said, I mean, you're still going to get people saying stuff. I mean, was that something you were aware of? Like, I can't do this now.
Yeah, you keep it in the back of your mind. I mean, it wasn't a challenge for me. I mean, once I got into the private world, it was Mr. This, Mr. That. Hey, how you doing? Oh, I appreciate the input. You know, they've, and I don't know if this is right mentality. You know, you paid to come play today at a public course, and it is what it is. You know, I'm sorry if we couldn't get X, Y, and Z done. You know, it is what it is. In the private world, you know, it's very much, it is what it is, and it's the same kind of at all times. I grew up, you know, my dad is a member at a couple clubs around Chicago area, so I grew up playing in the private world, and kind of have always had that respect for the private world and the members. So I've never snapped at a member or at my current course. I also think it was a lot of losing my brother and that 4 or 5 year stretch of working through that as well. You know, that weighed on me heavily and definitely, you know, would shorten my temper with certain things at times. You know, now 10 years down the road, you work through it. You know, my personality and who I am as a person is completely different than what it was when I was working at my last course. So I think that's kind of got something to do with it. But again, like I said, you know, they pay big money for these courses, you know, and they sign my paycheck. The public players didn't sign my paycheck, you know. I mean, the private guys do, and I think that's kind of a big point in me keeping my mouth shut.
I think
you never know who anyone is, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like, you know, I mean, like for example, I had a guy that reamed me in the public world and fuck you, motherfucker, and you know, you work on a golf course, you know, because this whole area is very affluent, and you know, you work on a golf course, you know, I'm in consulting, yada yada. Turns out the dude worked for my fucking dad.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oops.
And I'm like, oh, small world there, buddy. Yeah. I'm like, dude, you know, so, and that was kind of eye-opening to me. It's like, you don't know.
Did your dad have a talking to him then?
No, but I did. You know, I was having dinner with my dad down at Hugo's in Chicago, and he's like, oh, I got 2 of my employees that are going to meet us. And one of the dudes, this is like 2 weeks later, and you could tell we locked eyes, and he knew my face, but he couldn't figure out where it was from.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I definitely remember. He's like, "Do we know each other?" I'm like, "Yes, we do." Like, yeah, you were the asshole like 2 weeks ago at Lindy Park Golf Club, and his eyes were just like, "I'm sorry, it was a bad day." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
yeah."
It seems to me, Zach, you've got a very high emotional intelligence. You know, you're very self-aware. You mentioned earlier dealing with your staff members, and not to take your um, calmness, I guess, as a weakness. How important do you think it is to have that emotional intelligence, to be in control of your emotions? How important is that in this role?
I think it's huge. Every personality is different, right? Someone that there are guys that I know I can, not that I do, but I could get in their face and yell at them, and they would take that as constructive criticism and wouldn't think twice about it. Then there's other guys who would just completely shut down, or take that as disrespect. Um, so you gotta, with the emotional intelligence, you got to be able to read your crew members' personalities and who they are. Like, I've learned that Hispanic people, they don't really catch on to American sarcasm. Like, I've learned that with my crew. Like, I'll be sarcastic with some of my main guys, and they'll be like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "No, I'm joking." So the emotional intelligence part is huge in every aspect, not only managing the crew, but just with your job. Like I said, you got to know when to get upset, when not to, out in the course, and about certain things and things that are in your control and are not in your control. Um, but I firmly believe if you're able to read your crew members, you'll have a successful crew going forward. I mean, it's they're the ones doing the work, right? For the most part, like, don't get me wrong, my favorite job is walk mow greens. I haven't walked mow green in 4 years now. Like, I'm lucky to get on a sprayer these days, just because there's so much going on at all times. But yeah, I mean, you need to be in tune with your crew. It's like a family. I know we hear it all the time. You spend more time with them than you do your family a lot of the times, and to some aspects that's true. So you need to keep things lighthearted, doing cookouts and barbecues and rewarding these guys, because the truth is they're not making a whole lot. I know courses that are still paying guys 11, $12 an hour, and now it seems like the going rates around that 16, 17, 18 an hour, just to get guys in the doors. We're well above that. But at the end of the day, $22 an hour, that's still not a lot in today's economy. So you want to
Not in Chicago.
not, yeah, man. Holy moly. Don't even get me started about rent. Or buying a house.
Yeah.
But I try, like, I'll bring donuts and coffee in once or twice a month to show their thanks. I'm always saying thank you. I'm always saying please. My tone is never too much with them. Like tomorrow, like, I've got a kid on the way, so we're clearing out a bunch of stuff, making a bunch of space. I've got like 5 bags of clothes and shit that I'm gonna take tomorrow, and here, have at it. This is my way of saying thank you. I'm sorry I can't give you a $5 raise. You know, um, so it's super important to be in tune with your crew and treat them well.
Talk to us a little bit about the maintenance facility right now, because it sounds like it's a bit of a gong show over there, but big plans, right?
Dude, Gong Show was a great statement right there. It is insane. I mean, so we're doing two phases. So we didn't do a complete knockdown. We're marrying a new building with an old building, which, if anyone's ever going to do that, don't. Just knock it all
Just
down.
build a new one.
Just just start it all over. Yeah, so we're in the final stages of getting our 10,000 square foot prefab building up and running. We actually got the floor scrubber today to do our final cleaning before we start getting equipment and everything in. But it's been a long journey. I mean, the erectors told us that we'd be up like December 22nd, and they were like 2.5 months behind. And okay, not that big of a deal, but it is when you've got just massive amounts of restoration to do around your shop. I mean, our shop is in the middle of the course, so it's ugly right now. I mean, we've been building mounds and berms, but it's all bare soil. Can't get any of the equipment in. We're out of like 15 or 16 containers. And you never know, you got a sheet, but you never know which piece of equipment is where. It's terrible for our mechanic. He can't get organized. It's just, it's been an uphill battle, man. I'm telling you guys, it is not been fun. I guess the good part is that we aren't displaced from our offices and break room right now. But that's the second phase. So they'll come in and completely redo our existing building, complete renovation. But that'll displace us in November. And I'd prefer not to be in like a little rental trailer during the winter in Chicago because it's windy and it's cold. Sucks.
Yeah, need some extra heaters.
Yeah, but it's awesome. It is so overdone. I mean, you light it, you turn the lights on inside, and it's like a freaking operating room. I mean, it is insane. Got heaters. I think ideally we stay around 55 degrees in the winter, so it's kind of cold storage, kind of not cold storage. Um, but it entails a lot. I mean, my current mechanic got new grinders out of it, which is cool.
There you go.
So yeah, and I mean, this is more for him. I mean, he's going to be using all this stuff way more than we are. So he's pretty excited. But
And that kind of, those little things make a big difference too, right? Giving the team a clean, safe environment to work out of, I think goes a long way in that morale for the entire crew. So that's exciting stuff, man. Want to throw it to you. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to cover?
I want to say that this, for anybody thinking about coming into this industry, it's well worth it. Long hours at times, but it's extremely rewarding. It was tough 10, 15, 20 years ago, but the pay is starting to catch up. I mean, I'm seeing stuff for $130,000 for lead assistants in some areas. I mean,
Wow.
to think, 20 years ago, assistants were making 35 grand, and now 10, 15, 20 years later, you got $100,000 more at some places. It's huge, and it's a great community. And I would just highly, highly suggest anyone that's thinking about working outdoors, look into, becoming a superintendent. And the online program allows you to do it at your own pace.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we Zach, we had a number of questions come in on our Instagram, and you did a great job in just going through everything you talked about today. You answered a lot of great ones. The one thing I did want to kind of end with was some advice for a young assistant. If there's a young assistant kind of running a crew out there, some of your advice from your experience for them.
Yeah, just keep your head up. I think it's important not to have horse blinders on. Always have the grand picture in mind. I think it's also important you can take, what I've done. I was at just your local municipality course and got to Butler National, which is a very exclusive course. So don't let just working at a public course deter you from making that jump. Interview with, knowledgeable confidence, make sure you know your stuff, and you've got just good as of an opportunity to get where you want to be. But keep your head down and grind. You'll get there. We all get there. I mean, I'm 34 almost. I've been an assistant for 9, 10 years now. I'm being patient. Don't feel a need to rush. There's so much to learn at all times. I've been at it 9 years and I'm still learning something new every day. So be a sponge, continue to do your own education. I'm just a firm believer in that. Like, if anybody who's good at what they do and can grow grass, they are never just sitting still. They are always looking for projects to do to make their course better. And they are constantly keeping up to date with the science and everything that's going on with the industry, because it's science, it's ever evolving, it's ever changing. You have to keep up with it. So continued education is extremely important. I mean, I myself have gone through probably close to 100 GCS AA videos, and then you add the TurfNet videos and all that. So just continue to educate yourself.
Great advice.
Great advice. Yep.
Awesome. Well, this has been a ton of fun here, Zach. We appreciate you coming on, and certainly a great episode. Lots of nuggets here that people are going to get a lot out of this. So again, really appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we'll cross paths sometime soon.
Yeah, for sure, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity, and good luck going forward this year.
Yeah, sounds good,
awesome.
Zach.
Thanks.
Hey,
All
good
right.
luck with the baby too. That's exciting stuff, man.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys, we'll talk.
Okay,
All right, man,
take care, brother.
This episode of Turf Today is also brought to you by Apex 10, a natural biostimulant made from peat humus. Backed by global research, Apex 10 boosts plant health, cuts irrigation and fertility needs, and it's even registered for organic use. Elevate your turf naturally with Apex 10. Follow them on Instagram at Apex10Life.
Oh man,
Brought
that was
the energy.
outstanding. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, great interview. Great guy.
Yeah, sometimes when we bring people on who neither of us know or have like a previous relationship with, sometimes it's a bit of a gamble, but he's awesome.
Yeah,
A lot of great
yep.
advice there.
So fantastic. Certainly very knowledgeable, very mature, great mindset. That's certainly what you need.
100%. So what's next for you? Where are you headed next?
It's the gauntlet, man.
The gauntlet.
Yeah, I apologize. You're gonna have to do a lot of editing on that one. It's been so what, Tuesday night, got home around midnight, woke up at 4:30, woke up at 3:30, drove up to Detroit. It was a 1-day trip, came right back, woke up at again 3:30, started driving over to Oakmont yesterday. They just had some weather stuff, and so luckily was able to turn back around after we had to cancel that one. So had 2 unexpected days at home, which has been nice. But no, what am I doing? Next week's Dallas. I'm in Dallas for 3 days, come home for a few days, and then I think it's a 10 or 11-day trip. It's Cypress Point, Colonial, then Congressional. So tournament season's almost here. So go do some prep for the Walker Cup, be at Colonial for Advance Week, be at Congressional as they're getting ready for I believe it's the senior PGA. And then I don't know, and then somewhere for a little bit, and then Memorial Week. So this month's gonna fly, brother.
Yeah, it's exciting. That's exciting. So if you're working at any of those courses or tournaments, be sure to stop Ryan and say hi. And you never know, you might get on camera or on the mic.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be Advance Week for Colonial, so I unfortunately won't get to see everybody. I find you see a lot more during Advance Week. It's usually rinse and repeat come tournament week. You know?
Definitely.
But I'll be at Congressional for, I believe, Monday of tournament week. So then I got to get out of there before everything kicks off and get home. So awesome. It's gonna be busy. All right, man.
All right. Good episode.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Yep. See ya.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep those real sharp.